us.
Who doesn't?
The people in the Hamptons.
He would never say that.
They only like Mike Barnacle.
They only like Mike Barnacle? Mm-hmm. That's just Michael Weissman talking.
They don't like Mika.
Yeah, whatever.
All right, fine.
Yeah.
Now to upstate New York, where the manhunt for those 2 convicted murderers is now officially over. That took a while. David Sweat was shot by police and taken into custody Sunday, spotted by a lone state trooper in the town of Constable, New York, near the Canadian border. He was transferred to Albany Medical Center last night, where he's now being kept in a secure, locked unit. The medical director there says he's in critical condition. It all comes just 2 days after Richard Matt was discovered and killed by law enforcement in the woods about 6 miles from where Sweat was captured. Joining us now, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Thank you very much, Governor, for being with us this morning. I heard you congratulating law enforcement, and rightfully so, because that was quite a tremendous search and finally an end to this nightmare, which you called it that as well. What now are we looking at, though, in terms of how we deal with situations like this and prevent them? Because a lot happened, a lot went wrong.
No, Mika, you're exactly right. You know, first of all, from a state's point of view, a state governor's point of view, running the prisons are probably one of the most feared issues that could come up. Here in the state of New York, we had the Attica uprising under Governor Rockefeller. My father had the Ossining uprising, Sing Sing, up the river in Westchester. So prisons are dangerous places, obviously, and they're dangerous from a management point of view. This was extraordinary. This was D-N.Y, which is one of the toughest prisons in the state, over 100 years old, first escape in the prison's history. And it was very complicated. It was done with facilitators. It was done with cooperators. This could be a book for Mike Barnacle to write. This was Cool Hand Luke meets Shawshank Redemption. You had a woman who believed she was romantically involved with 1 or 2 of the escapees, and she helped facilitate. You had a correction officer who acted improperly. If he didn't directly facilitate, he acted inappropriately in providing them material. You have this practice of an honor block, which I understand the concept, which is to keep the inmates having a positive incentive. Because if the inmates are well behaving, then it's easier on the guards, it's easier to manage the prison. But we have a lot of work to do investigating both the cooperators and making the point that that cannot happen, and if that happens, that will be fully prosecuted. And then number 2, the overall systems of the prison, what went wrong, and are there systems that we should change?
Yeah, so Governor, you were there obviously from the very beginning all over this. From your vantage point, what are you going to ask the legislature to do, if anything, to change the way the prisons are run to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I don't know if we need legislation here. I think this may be all executive action and just be the management protocols that we put in place. I think, and it's premature, I ordered a full investigation and I don't want to get ahead of it, but there's something about this situation. The prison was seen as the ultimate prison. No one ever escaped in 100 years. It was the feared prison. In the other prisons, they would actually threaten inmates who were behaving poorly, will send you to D-N.Y. And no one had ever escaped. I don't know if that lent to it and the situation became somewhat lax, or on the honor guard block, people were given liberties that they shouldn't have been given. That we'll find out in the investigation. But I don't think it's going to be legislation. I think it's just going to be our reviewing our management structure. But then you had some real peculiarities here. I mean, you had a worker who falls in love with 1 or 2 of the men, believes they're going to escape, kill her husband, and then live happily ever after. which, you know,
Yeah.
I've read quite a number of fairy tales, but I didn't come across that one.
No, I didn't come across that one. I think,
that
yeah,
was-
she would not have made it out of town.
That was incredible.
Jeremy Peters with the New York Times here has got a question.
That's
Jeremy.
right.
Governor, good morning. I want to switch gears here to the Supreme Court decision recognizing gay marriage as a nationwide right. You, of course, put a lot of your political capital into getting a law passed in New York to legalize gay marriage. And I wonder, when you look at governors and state officials in places like Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, who are resisting this and dragging their feet to try to implement this and drag it out as much as possible, what do you think about that, and what's your message to them as a governor yourself who's charged with executing these laws?
I think they're on the wrong side of history, and I would say to them, give it up. I am very proud of what we did here in New York. We passed marriage equality, as we call it, 4 years ago. I think it's going to be one of the proudest parts of my legacy here as governor. We all dream when we're in public service that we can actually accomplish something that makes society better, makes the state better, makes the world better. Recognizing marriage equality made this state a better state. You could feel it palpably on the street, because marriage equality was not about marriage. It was about equality. It was the second word. Marriage became the proxy for the equality discussion. But if you remember back at the time, we talked about civil unions, which we offered the gay community. And we said, well, civil unions, it's almost like marriage. It has all the legal rights. It's almost like marriage. And they said, we don't want almost like. We don't want marriage light. We don't want something that has the same assets but not the name. We want equality. This is a group of people who spent a lot of their lives living in shame and in the closet. They wanted full equality. They deserve full equality. It is illegal to discriminate against people in the state of New York or in this nation. That's what the Supreme Court said. And gays will get full equality. Marriage is a proxy for that. If those politicians who are still fighting against it are fighting yesterday's battle.
All right.
And they're on the wrong side of history. They're on the wrong side of American philosophy and theory.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, thank you very much for being on the show this morning.
Thanks, Governor. We appreciate it.
And still ahead on Morning Joe.
Nobody has been held accountable for what's happened in the past with my son.
Disturbing new claims of drugs being overprescribed at one VA hospital with deadly results. MSNBC's Ronan Farrow brings us his investigation into the place being called as Candyland.